pretty much anybody who signs an NBA contract gets rich right away. Even some of the lowest paid scrubs still make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. As we all know, some NBA players in particular make way more than the rest. These rare guys are young, ultra-famous alpha males in their 20s and 30s with millions to hundreds of millions of dollars in their pockets. You can imagine sometimes they'd make purchases that are a little extra. As it turns out, some of them have made purchases that are so unbelievable, most people could never have even imagined them. Keep watching to learn about the most expensive purchases NBA players have ever made. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is the second of only 2 players to ever win an MVP award as a Chicago Bull. I'm sure you know who the first was, and don't worry, we'll cover some of his purchases too later on in the video. Rose grew up on the south side of Chicago, watching his local hero MJ on TV. Growing up to become something like his second coming in Chicago came with a lot of glory, and it also came with a boatload of cash. As the first pick in the 2008 NBA draft, Rose entered the NBA signing a 4-year contract for $22 million. After his 2011 MVP season, Rose re-signed with the Bulls, this time for another 5 years and damn near $100 million. This turned Rose into a ridiculously rich man, and it turns out he has some ideas about what to do with all that money. Rose has a taste for exotic cars, and pretty soon after entering the NBA, he started a collection. Over the years, Rose has purchased a range of Italian exotic cars. He seems especially fond of Maseratis and Lamborghinis. He has several and can often be spotted during the off-season shopping at car dealerships and expos, hoping to buy more. In fact, in 2015, a video even surfaced of Rose test driving a new Lamborghini worth close to $600,000 around the streets of downtown Chicago. But the most expensive car Rose has ever purchased is a Bugatti Veyron. This insane car was the fastest street legal car in the world for many years after it was released, and it cost Rose no less than $1.7 million brand new. Amazingly, it's not the most expensive car in the world, not even close, but it's definitely the most expensive car ever owned by an NBA player. It's also absolutely the fastest. To give you an idea of how powerful the engine in this car is, imagine the engine in a modern day Ferrari like the Ferrari F8 Tributo. Now imagine taking 2 of those engines and putting them into a single car. That's what the Bugatti Veyron is powered by. The engine has 16 cylinders, 4 times as many as most cars its size. The car has 1,200 horsepower, and most amazingly of all, it can reach speeds of more than 250 miles an hour. Where in a dense city like Chicago, Rose thought he could go that fast? I have no idea, but he clearly loves the car, and he's brought it with him to every new city that he's played in throughout his career. It's crazy to think that this is just one of the expensive cars Rose has purchased and now keeps in his garage. But it's not as crazy as this next purchase. Draymond Green. Draymond Green is another player who became insanely rich from the moment he entered the NBA. Green was drafted in 2012, and he was lucky enough to get picked by the Warriors, a team right on the verge of launching a major dynasty. During his rookie season, Green made $850,000. Not bad, but nowhere near the elite level of somebody like Derrick Rose. But in no time, Green's income skyrocketed. He re-signed with the Warriors, this time for 5 years and $85 million. I'm sure Draymond drives a nice car, but he was apparently less interested in cars than Derrick Rose. Draymond was more interested in something else. During an interview on the podcast Needing Dough, Draymond told the story of how once, on a single night at the club, he managed to spend $21,000. That's more than twice the average amount of money people earn in an entire year, and not too far behind the average salary of someone living in the US. It's a mind-blowing number. It makes you wonder what Green could possibly have spent all that money on. He didn't say during the interview, but it's not hard to imagine. There's probably a lot of really expensive alcohol and tons of hired services like dancers and entertainers and musicians. Who knows? All Draymond knows is that he didn't drink nearly enough to forget what happened that night, and he remembers getting handed the bill and being shocked. Draymond says that when he first made it to the NBA, his goal was to manage all his money himself. Coming from very humble beginnings in Saginaw, Michigan, he said it was important to him to develop these skills himself, rather than hiring somebody else to do it for him. After that night at the club, Green says he started to think twice about that decision. Soon afterwards, he hired a financial advisor. Playing in Golden State means Green lives near Silicon Valley, and he's been making investments in companies throughout his NBA career. He says his goal now is to become a billionaire before he reaches the age of 40. Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal is one of the wealthiest athletes in history. As successful as he was playing in the NBA, he's arguably even more successful as a public figure. He's been in more ads, hosted more shows, and guest starred in more movies than anyone could even hope to keep track of. Oh, and don't forget all those sponsorships too. All of this has earned O'Neal a net worth of well over $400 million. But there are some things money can't buy. One of those things is a magic wand that can make you shrink down to a normal size. Although Shaq did appear as a genie in the movie Kazam. No matter how rich Shaq gets, he still has to be a giant 7-footer. Shaq is so big that even though he's a multi-millionaire, his options for cars have always been really limited. O'Neal's garage is full of customized Ford F-150s and different high-end SUVs. These huge gas-guzzling vehicles are the only cars Shaq can even fit inside of, and he has tons of them. Because of this, Shaq spends more money per month on gas than maybe any other person on the planet. According to HotCars.com, Shaq spends $23,000 per month filling up. That's close to $800 a day. Shaq must spend half of his life ducking down under the overhang at gas stations, draining the station supply for hours on end. The unbelievable price of all this fuel might be no big deal for Shaq, but it's definitely a big deal for eco-activists who say this extremely large man and his extremely large cars are making global warming way worse. Shaq has never addressed these concerns, but he did tell Hot Cars that he has his own unique way of saving money on gas. He says that every time he goes to fill up, he puts in $20. Hopefully he's kidding. First off, in the long run, that wouldn't save you any money at all. Plus, if Shaq really only puts $20 in the tank at a time, with his need for gas, that means he goes to the gas station 40 times a day, 7 days a week. Somehow, that doesn't quite add up. Then again, when Shaq isn't driving around polluting the environment, he's been busy having kids. It's no surprise most of Shaq's kids are also giant, and they also probably drive a bunch of their own giant cars that suck up giant amounts of gas, which Shaq himself probably pays for. That could definitely be added to his epic gas bill. Either way, it all adds up to the most expensive gas prices in NBA history and probably in human history too, at least for a single person. John Wall. Most of the expensive purchases NBA players make are for themselves and their families, but not always. In 2017, John Wall made an extremely expensive purchase that ended up being a gift for all of his teammates. Wall was selected by the Washington Wizards as the first pick in the 2010 NBA draft. Right away, he signed a deal with Reebok. Instantly, Wall was swimming in money. Despite being troubled by injuries, Wall managed to maintain his status as arguably the best player in Washington. In July of 2017, he signed a new contract with the Wizards for an astonishing $207 million over the next 6 years. Wall had more money than he even knew what to do with, and as a way to show his appreciation for his team, he decided to spend more than $600,000 just on buying all of his teammates' Christmas gifts. In December of 2017, all 16 of Wall's teammates received their own gold-plated Rolex watch. Each watch was worth about $40,000, enough to pay for a year of tuition at a typical private college in the US. These were beautiful watches that I'm sure these players will wear for the rest of their lives, but even then, it seems like a pretty crazy thing to spend so much money on. But speaking of spending too much money, wait till you hear what Dwayne Wade once blew a fortune on. Dwayne Wade. D. Wade is one of the most decorated players in basketball history, and with that comes more money than most people see in their lifetime. Wade is also married to Gabrielle Union, who's probably even more wealthy than he is. But even then, what Wade chose to do with some of that money seems totally irresponsible. In 2016, Wade hired a luxury brand from New York City called Bison to design him a custom pair of sneakers. These sneakers would become the most expensive shoes in the world. They're covered with diamonds, sapphires, and even pieces of 18-karat gold. Even at 18 carats, gold is still one of the heaviest metals on Earth, much heavier than lead. These shoes might be great if you want to sink to the bottom of the ocean, but they would be unbelievably terrible to play basketball in. Still, Wade paid no less than $4 million for them. Before you judge Wade too harshly, you should know that he actually auctioned off the shoes as part of a charity event for Souls for Shoes, a nonprofit that donates shoes and clothing for people in need. Wade actually did a remarkably good thing by making the shoes. That being said, whoever bought them at the auction is a total idiot. LeBron James. So far, the richest player we've covered on this list has been Shaquille O'Neal, but that's about to get blown out of the water. When it comes to wealthy NBA players, very few ever get close to the level of LeBron James. In fact, based on player contracts he has signed during his career alone, LeBron James is the highest earning basketball player ever. Since his first rookie contract with the Cavaliers back in 2003, LeBron has been paid a total of almost $350 million just to play. That's not even counting all the sneaker sales, endorsement deals, being in movies, and doing a whole bunch of other stuff too. All things combined, LeBron has earned more than $1 billion in his professional career. While that's not the same as being a billionaire, it does mean James has been and continues to be worth hundreds of millions. And with that money, James has made some incredible purchases. For example, as you might expect, LeBron bought a mansion just outside of Cleveland not long after entering the NBA. He paid just over $2 million for it, but amazingly, the mansion is now worth over $9 million. A huge reason for that is obviously because he lived there and made some expensive renovations to the house during that time. When James signed with the Lakers in 2018, he decided to buy not one, but two mansions in the hills of Los Angeles. Both of these huge homes could have everything you can imagine them having: big swimming pools, movie theaters, large training gyms, basketball courts, you name it. I have no idea why LeBron needs two of these, but he must have his reasons. In addition to houses, LeBron has also made one of the most unique expensive purchases on this list: his own body. Around the same time LeBron was buying his pair of mansions in LA, it was revealed that he spends about $1.5 million every year keeping himself in top physical shape. This goes beyond just personal trainers and weight machines. James has a personal cooking staff to ensure his diet is perfect. He also uses rare and expensive things like cryotherapy and hyperbaric chambers, which can increase the speed at which injuries heal, among other things. But the biggest thing LeBron James has purchased by far has been an entire school. With his own money, LeBron started the I Promise School in Ohio. This is an elementary school, and the purpose is to serve kids who are at risk. The school costs somewhere around $8 million a year to run, and is supposed to be fully operational by 2022. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is more than 3 times richer than the next richest NBA player. As of 2021, he's estimated to be worth close to $2 billion. No other NBA player has come close to a net worth of even $1 billion. What's crazy is the vast majority of his wealth didn't even come from on the court, but off of it, with his different partnerships like Nike and Gatorade. In 2019, Jordan made one purchase that put the rest of the NBA to shame, and may never be topped. He bought a yacht for $80 million. That's a boat that costs more than LeBron's 2 LA mansions combined. Jordan pays $840,000 a week to use and maintain the boat, as well as pay the staff, who cook and clean while he and his family are on board. The yacht is 230 feet long and has a full-length indoor basketball court inside. In addition to being the GOAT of basketball, Jordan is also most definitely the GOAT of expensive purchases, as far as basketball players are concerned.